Hello, my friends. I'm back and I'm going to talk about people pleasing today. It's a topic that's very dear to my heart because I am a recovering people pleaser. And this is for everyone who has this problem. I know my last video was for men, but a lot of women have this trait too. And it is a very, very toxic and destructive one. And I want to give you what I've learned in my people pleaser recovery journey because it is not helpful for anything, not for your relationships, and in fact, it has the opposite effect of whatever you're trying to do to make your relationships better, make your friendships better, make your work situations better. And I will explain to you how it works today. People pleasers do not really please anyone, including themselves. People pleasing is not a behavior or personality type that one is born with, but rather something that is learned as a survival mechanism and anxiety management tool. Excuse me, my allergies have been terrible recently, so I'm trying not to breathe through my mouth, but the spring is here. So again, people pleasing is not a behavior or personality type that one is born with, but rather something that is learned as a survival mechanism, anxiety management tool. People pleasers believe in covert contracts and giving to get instead of giving just because they want to, which is real love. The definition of covert contracts is that if you could just be good, nice, agreeable, useful, and meet the needs of the people in your life, then those people will turn around and reciprocate with the same behavior, and that your needs and wants will also be considered a priority for those around you. People pleasers believe that if they do certain actions, that those actions will be reciprocated with the actions from others that will meet their needs, and that they don't even have to communicate what their needs are, which requires the other party to be a mind reader. And people pleasers often play the position of mind reader, trying to do a bunch of things that they think are nice that the other person never even asked for. No one can read your mind, and you shouldn't expect that you can read anyone else's mind. People-pleasing behavior always starts early in life with people wanting to please their parents and being rewarded for being mommy and daddy's good little boy or girl. Excuse me. The problem is your significant other, boss, neighbor, and all the other people in your adult life are not your mommy and daddy, and you are no longer a child. So trying to repeat the same behavior you did to please your parents will not work in mature relationships with your social equals. In fact, this behavior has the opposite effect of what you're trying to get. People pleasers are score keepers. They think that the more nice things they do for another person, often without being asked to do it, that they are building up a so-called bank account of good deeds, and that this will lead to the person that they are doing the nice things for reciprocating when they want them to, often without having to ask the person directly for what they want. This never, never, never works. People pleasers are afraid to state their honest opinion, their preferences, their boundaries, and if they are upset, they compartmentalize it and avoid conflict at all costs. The biggest cost being their own sanity in relationships. People pleasers are inherently dishonest and use manipulation and covert contracts instead of being honest and direct. And that's something I often talk about is I had a problem being bold, honest, and direct. But that's what works in life. Not being an ass, not being a jerk, but kindly stating the things you want, your opinions, your preferences, your boundaries, saying it in a polite and nice and calm way. But people pleasers are so afraid to rock the boat that they often will not state their honest opinion. They often will not be honest and lie, even though a lot of them think that they're honest. People pleasers are inherently dishonest and use manipulation and covert contracts instead of being honest and direct. People pleasers keep things that bother them a secret until it blows up in a destructive way, mostly anger and rage fits. Dr. Glover calls them victim pukes. And so people pleasers keep things that bother them a secret until it blows up in a destructive way that they seldom have any control over. So once it's compartmentalized for so long, usually when the reciprocation doesn't happen, when other people can't guess what your needs are after you've done so much, you blow up on them. People pleasers never want to rock the boat. They always want everything to go smoothly. And one thing I noticed about myself and other people pleasers, they're very bad at receiving, but they're very good at giving. So even when the other person is trying to reciprocate, you will not accept it as a people pleaser. People pleasers are so concerned with what other people want that they are unsure about what they actually want themselves. They don't know what their own personal truth is. All their identity is based on what other people think and what other people want instead of what they want, instead of what you want. People pleasers have a problem with honesty and owning their truth. Most people pleasers are incredibly controlling, trying to manage all the people, situations in their life. A quote from Dr. Glover, who was a former people pleaser, big time, is, excuse me, most of what people pleasers do have to do with managing their anxiety instead of soothing their anxiety. So the anxiety is at the core of this. Anxiety of having to confront someone when you're unhappy with their behavior. A lot of anxiety about asking for what you want. A lot of anxiety about telling the truth. Anxiety about revealing your rough edges and that you're just human. Most of what people pleasers do is to try to avoid anxiety instead of soothing their anxiety and letting it pass through. Low self-esteem, self-worth, and self-knowledge are at the core of people-pleasing and codependency. People pleasers get their happiness from controlling others instead of controlling themselves. People pleasers have a hard time seeing people for who they are and believing they can manipulate others to be what they want them to be. People pleasers have no sense of integrity and staying true to themselves. People pleasers have a hard time making their own needs a priority. The tactics that people pleasers use for control, manipulation, and anxiety soothing are manipulation, passive aggression, and anger. So the truth is that love, intimacy, trust, and safety in a relationship, any relationship, but especially romantic ones and ones with family, the love, intimacy, trust, and safety cannot exist if you're a people pleaser, because people pleasers never let you know who they actually are. So there's nothing to love. And I struggled with this. My parents were great, but they were high achievers, and I had a standard to keep up to. And I had a lot of issues when I was young. And so it started with always wanting to get approval and a pat on the back for what I did, instead of just doing it for myself. And I ended up doing a lot of things that I didn't want to do to try and impress my parents, like taking piano when I didn't want to do it, playing sports when I didn't have an interest in doing that. All those things were to prove something to the people around me and my parents and the neighbors and the community that I could fit in. People pleasers seek external validation and hide everything about themselves. So in my relationships, I would hide my rough edges, hide my weaknesses, hide my situations. So things like the addictions that I had, I would do it in secret. I wouldn't let my partner know about it. The insecurities, certain times if I was struggling, I didn't let my partner know. I acted as if nothing was happening and kept it inside. If I had certain boundaries I wanted respected, instead of talking about those boundaries or, potentially having an argument or uncomfortable situation, I would just be really nice, do things that I wasn't asked to do, like, cleaning, cooking, gifts, all those things, expecting that you will get respect and treated the way you want to be, that I would be treated the way I wanted to be treated without asking for it. And it just doesn't work. And this often turns into a Jekyll and Hyde situation. So when I was doing all those things, but repeatedly having not reciprocation not in the way I wanted, so my partner thought that she was doing everything that I wanted her to do because I wouldn't ask for what I really wanted, and I just do more and more. And so when I didn't get loved in the way I wanted to be loved and my needs met in the way I wanted to because I was too afraid to ask for it, I would get very upset. So Jekyll and Hyde, I would be really, really kind and do lots of acts of service and a lot of things, giving to get, covert contracts, and people aren't mind readers, so they're not going to give you what you want unless you ask for it usually. And so I blow up with anger. And a huge part of intimacy, trust, and love is being upfront about your rough edges. So when I was going through a hard time or I was struggling with something, instead of reaching out for help and support, which I needed, I tried to be a strong person and just keep it all inside and expected the people in my life, my partner, my friends, to just respond and be there for me like I thought I'd been there for them. And it rarely turned out that way, and they had no clue what was going on. And also the love and intimacy was going down because they didn't even know who I was, and they didn't even know I was a human being because I was just trying to be this perfect person and serve everybody without trying to meet my own needs and asking for what I needed and wanted from people. So you have to show up as your true self in the world as a human being. And we all have rough edges, and we all have things we're not good at that we need help with. We all have things that we want our partners help with, or we want our friends help with, but you have to be willing to ask. And we all have our boundaries and things that make us unhappy. And unless you're willing to have the hard conversations, the confrontations, and be willing to be disagreeable somewhat, and if someone offends you or if someone crosses your boundary, you have to say something about it. Not in a jerk way, not in an angry way, but you have to talk about it. And just being willing to talk about it instead of lying and pretending everything's okay, that builds intimacy, trust, and love. So being human, being willing to have the hard conversations, being willing to confront, Being willing to bring up things that you're not happy about in a kind way. Willingness to establish boundaries. Willingness to ask for what you want. These are all things people pleasers are very bad at, but they're really good at serving others. And I didn't know what I wanted, and I didn't know what, you know, I didn't know what my truth was because I was so busy fulfilling everyone else's truth and being what I thought people wanted me to be that I had no idea what my own truth was. So it took a long period of me being alone and isolated and learning about myself, learning about what made me happy, what my passions were, what my wants and needs were, and putting your own needs first. I had to put my own needs first to be a better partner, a better son, a better brother. I had to do that. I had to put my needs first. It's like the oxygen mask analogy. You need to put your oxygen mask on and meet your own needs first before you can help others. So, oftentimes in a relationship, you lose yourself. You will do everything to please the other person and along with what they want, and you end up losing yourself. And their likes become your likes. And you totally go into their world and you lose yourself. And I know that a lot of people and therapists and people in the States will talk about compromise. And yes, in every relationship, there has to be some sort of compromise. But you have to know your boundaries. You have to know where you're not willing to compromise. I'll give you an example. One of my people I care about a lot, my current girlfriend, she has cats, and cats made me really ill. And I thought that I could just pop a pill and deal with the cat allergy because I wanted to be with her so bad. And so I was willing to live with cats for a few years, and it did not help me. I wasn't sleeping right. I was snoring. I was ill all the time, no matter what pills I took. And that made me into a jerk. And it made me not sleep well. And it made me not functional during the day. And it made me not think straight and have temper tantrums just because I wasn't sleeping well and I felt ill all the time. So as much as I love her, I cannot live with cats. And I had to make that decision that I cannot live with cats. And that's a boundary I had to make. And so now I no longer have cats in my living space. And it's done me so much good. And that's a pretty big boundary. But there's other boundaries. There's other things that you shouldn't force yourself to do things that really do not resonate with you. Like, I understand, like, if it's a small thing, like, sometimes you can go to the restaurant that your partner wants to go to, even though if you don't really care for that food, you can compromise. You can go to that restaurant sometimes, and then sometimes you can go to the restaurant you want to, or preparing the meals, Sometimes you can eat the meal she wants to, and then sometimes, I cook the food I want to, even though I know that she doesn't really care for that. And that's part of the compromise. But when it comes to the big things, like where you want to live, how you want to, what your passions are, your purpose in this world, you can't let anyone get in between you in that. And you can still carry on a relationship with that person, but you had to draw those hard boundaries, because once you let those boundaries be crossed over and over again, you will have resentment and you will blow up on your partner and you'll ruin your relationship. Also, being a good receiver and asking for what you want instead of making other people guess. I always used to say, when my girlfriend used to ask me, what do you want for dinner? Oh, I'm not picky. Whatever you have. Whatever you have in the fridge. Now, I will honestly think, what do I really want for dinner? And I'll tell her what I want if she's offering to make dinner. And I'm happy and I feel great when she goes through the effort to make me what I want in the way I want it. And she's happy to serve me what I want, and vice versa. When she tells me what she wants and I feel like cooking, I'll do the same thing. So that's like a food example, but just being honest and direct about what you want, or there's something that you don't like. For example, my girlfriend wanted me to go see the Barbie movie with her, and I definitely don't want to see. I don't like any of the movies that are out, but definitely not that kind of movie. And if I'd say yes to her, I'd be grumbling and, kind of pissy and bitchy the whole time. But if I could just say no and go to the gym and do what I want to do and hang with my friends, she can go see the movie with her friends. I can go do what I want, and then we can meet up after and have a great time. So, you don't always have to say yes to everything just because it means you're spending time with your partner and it's what they want. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to draw a boundary. So compromise. I know everyone's pushing compromise, but you shouldn't compromise everything. And I suffered from codependency, and I'm recovering from that. And codependence and people pleasers are one and the same. It's almost the same thing, but I'm going to do another video on that. But to thine self stay true. That's what they put on the coin that they give you, along with the serenity prayer. So, the reason people pleasers rarely get what they want is because of they're afraid to communicate what they want and their preferences and their boundaries, as well as they're not trustworthy. They're liars, because no one can know the real you if you don't tell them. So if you don't tell them your boundaries, your likes, your dislikes, your needs, your wants, you no longer become human. You become just some weird person who doesn't have a personality, and you're always trying to go along to get along. And this is to avoid conflict and to avoid any awkward situations. But learning how to be okay with someone else not being okay, and a little conflict and awkward situations, that's a huge part of being human. So having that confrontation when things aren't going right, or you're unhappy about something, that does nothing but build trust, intimacy, and improve your relationships. And if you don't do that, eventually you are going to get fed up and pissed off and do something drastic. And it's very destructive. The anger of a people pleaser, when they're not getting their needs met, when they're getting their boundaries crossed constantly, and their covert contracts are not satisfied, the anger is huge. And I've lost jobs over this, for real. Like, I've lost jobs over this kind of thing. And I've lost relationships over this kind of thing. And it's not a healthy place to be, either spiritually, mentally, or physically. So you need to tear up your covert contracts. And people pleasers, they're in the habit of giving, but they're giving to get. They're giving because they think they're going to get something back. And that's not real love. That's not real giving. You have to give because you want to give. You have to give because you truly love that person or care for that person. And you're giving from yourself out of love and out of care. And because you want to do it, expecting nothing back. And transactional relationships never are intimate. And I thought that, if I do A, B, and C, the other person can guess what you want, what I want, and they're going to do guess what I want and do whatever I want. And that's the quickest way to disappointment you can get. So you're not going to avoid the anxiety of asking for what you want or having the hard conversations or setting boundaries. You're not going to avoid that anxiety, but people pleasers often have a hard time dealing with anxiety, and it's an anxiety survival mechanism to deal with anxiety. So there are ways to soothe your anxiety. And one of these comes from Dr. Glover. This is a mantra you can say to yourself, like, no matter what comes my way, I will survive and I will handle it. I think all the information I just gave you, just knowing that what you've been doing as a people pleaser has not been serving you, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. So knowing that honesty, integrity, and being vulnerable about your needs, wants, boundaries, and being vulnerable enough to say no if you don't want to do something, that builds intimacy, and that will only help your relationships and help you get closer to people. So knowing that what you're doing now will not work, and the getting over the initial anxiety of whatever confrontations or whatever hard conversations you're going to have on your recovery from people pleasing, that should be good motivation for you to stop people pleasing and to live in your truth. You need to live in your truth. If you don't know what your passion is, figure it out. If you don't know what your likes and dislikes are, and it's always been dictated by other people, you need to write down, do some hard thinking, do some journaling on what you do really like, what your needs, wants, desires, your deepest desires, all these things. You need to write down who you are and what you want. If your identity has been shaped by everyone around you, your partner, your parents, instead of yourself, like, you need to figure out what you really like. When I was a kid, I did piano, I did sports, I did so many different things because I thought I'd get admiration and, I would get a pat on the back from my parents, and I wasted hours and hours and hours learning a skill that I had no interest in. And all that will take away from who you are and what you really, the life you want to lead. So there's an opportunity cost to everything. So when you're not being true to yourself and you're doing things you don't want to do and living places you don't want to live and you're having your boundaries crossed, that sucks your energy up, and you will not have energy to do your purpose in the world and live the life you want to live. So if you're not sure who you are and what your truth is, you need to figure it out. And you need to stay true to yourself. And that will also make you a better partner, a better husband, a better wife, a better son, a better daughter, when you are living in your truth and being the best person you can be for yourself. You have to live for yourself. You have to meet your own needs first. Put that oxygen mask on before you can help others. So just remember my words when you are trying to people please, make covert contracts, and giving to get, and all these things that don't work. They have the opposite effect. All those things kill intimacy, they kill love, and they'll kill your relationships. Whether it's with your partner, your parents, your brother, your sister, it will kill your valued relationships if you're a people pleaser. So just stop. Just stop. And this video should be enough information for you to get started. But if you need some extra help, I'm happy to help you. I'm here for you. Send me an email, and I have a free 30-minute session available to everyone out there. So I'm happy to get a plan started for you and get you on the right track. Sometimes it can be done in the first session, and I'm only too happy to help. So book your free 30-minute session with me. And I really love you guys. I care about you. And I hope you take this information to heart and stop people pleasing behavior, because it's going to destroy your relationships, it'll destroy your health, and it's going to destroy your life. If you live to please others, no one will really be pleased, including yourself. So I just wanted to end this with a few quotes that I pulled up about people pleasing. So, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. This is from Brene Brown. We can say what we need to say. We can gently but assertively speak our mind. We do not need to be judgmental, tactless, blaming, or cruel when we speak our truths. Melody Beattie. When you say yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. Paulo Coelho. When we begin to set boundaries with people we love, a really hard thing happens. They hurt. They may feel a hole where you used to plug up their aloneness, their disorganization, or their financial irresponsibility. Whatever it is, they will feel a loss. If you love them, this will be difficult for you to watch, but when you are dealing with someone who is hurting, remember that your boundaries are both necessary for you and helpful for them. If you have been enabling them to be irresponsible, your limit setting may nudge them towards responsibility. Henry Cloud. Love yourself enough to set boundaries. Your time and energy are precious. You get to choose how you use it. You teach people how to treat you by deciding what you will and won't accept. Anna Taylor. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. Brene Brown. Excuse me, I'm not feeling well. Compassion isn't some kind of self-improvement project or ideal that we are trying to live up to. Having compassion starts and ends with having compassion for all those unwanted parts of ourselves, all those imperfections that we don't even want to look at. Pema Chodron. This is one of my favorites from Ed Sheeran, the musician. I can't tell you the key to success, but the key to failure is trying to please everyone. That's good. Remember that one. That's the key to failure, is trying to please everyone. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt. Here's one of my favorites from Dr. Anne Brown. Excuse me. There's a huge cost to your soul, no dignity, no honesty, no opinions or thoughts of your own. And no, you are just some of the costs. Your biggest commitment must always be to yourself. Bridget DeVoe. This is very important. Paulo Coelho, very important one. Stress, anxiety, and depression are caused when we are living to please others. This one from Edwin Lewis Cole. The man who seeks to please God is a man who people are pleased with. The man who seeks to please others won't satisfy anyone. This one from Eileen Anglin. When you engage in people pleasing, you are out of integrity with yourself, your goals, your dreams, and your life's mission. You'll have no energy left to do your life's mission if you're trying to please others all the time. Trust me, I've tried it, people. I've tried it. Don't do this people pleasing. Don't feel bad for making decisions that hurt other people. You're not responsible for their happiness, you're responsible for yours. I like that one, but don't be a jerk at the same time. There's something very addictive about people pleasing. It's a thought pattern and a habit that feels really, really good until it becomes desperate. Anne Hathaway. The only thing wrong with trying to please everyone is that there is always at least one person who will remain unhappy. You. Elizabeth Parker. Don't be afraid of losing people. Be afraid of losing yourself by trying to please everyone around you. Sometimes you aren't listening to your body because you're listening to everybody else's expectations. Anne Voskamp. Self-care is giving the world the best of you, not the rest of you. It's not about being what everyone wants you to be. It's about being yourself and finding someone who truly loves you for what you are. The only reason people take you for granted is because they assume you'll always be there. Prove them wrong. Your life isn't yours if you constantly care what others think. This one from Nicole Lyons. The deepest pain I ever felt was denying my own feelings to make everyone else comfortable. This one from my absolute favorite, Abraham Hicks. People will love you, people will hate you, and none of it will have anything to do with you. This one from Preeta Gupta. Don't be a people pleaser, be a self pleaser. It's not ego, it's called self-respect. So I have a whole bunch here, but you get the point by now. So the people pleasing is not going to help. You're digging your own grave for your relationships, whether it's your partner, parents, brother, sister, whatever. You're digging the grave for your relationship with the people pleasing. So stay true to yourself, know your truth, and don't be afraid to speak your truth to others. Always in a kind and loving and calm way. But you got to speak your truth to others and state your opinions and state your boundaries without really putting any emphasis on what the other person thinks. Don't make it about you. And I could go on and on about this, but I think you all get the point. So stop the people pleasing. It's toxic. It's not showing love. It's showing that you want to control everything and that you're a control freak and you're trying to control other people and control your anxiety. And you won't accomplish either of those things by people pleasing. You'll accomplish it by staying true to yourself and saying what you have to say and doing what you have to do. I love you all. Email me for coaching, free 30-minute session. And I will be talking to you soon.